Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Smash JT. In this episode, we're going to be discussing repro carts and the gray area involved with collectors buying them. Why? Star Fox 2 is already on eBay. With the release of the SNES Classic finally coming available on stores, if you can get your hands on one, comes with it the official release of the finalized version of Star Fox 2. And already, less than 1 week of this system being out, the ROM has already been ripped and put onto an actual cart. And there are some serious ethical concerns being raised with a game that's being released on a system that's currently for sale on store shelves, being sold separately by somebody else on eBay, putting it onto a cart and selling it for their own profit. And while this may initially come off as me sounding like I can't stand repro carts and the people that make them, that actually couldn't be further from the truth. John Riggs from Rigg'd Games, one of my favorite YouTubers out there, does repro carts all the time on his channel. But they're for personal use, or they're made for his friends that specifically ask for them. And typically they're for games that existed in the past that are no longer for sale in stores currently. And I want to highlight John Riggs because I feel like he's somebody who does this for the right reasons, and he does it the right way. The people I'm talking about are these people selling stuff on eBay for a profit by ripping the actual Star Fox 2 ROM from the SNES Classic and putting that on an actual SNES cart and selling it on eBay for a profit just really doesn't sit well with me. And while a lot of people may argue, well, I mean, if they're for personal use and if someone wants to pay the money for it, what's the problem here? The problem is, that's Nintendo's IP, that's Nintendo's hard work that they put into these games. And while they didn't decide to sell it way back in the day for various reasons that I'm not going to go into in this video, the fact still remains that it's Nintendo's game, and they still deserve to make their money off of it because they paid for the entire development process on that game. And while the whole repro cart discussion is a conversation that will only end when the entire game industry crashes completely, clearly there is a market there. I know a lot of people that are interested in getting Star Fox 2 on a cart for the Super Nintendo, because it's just a cool thing to have. It's for nostalgic purposes, it's a fun thing to show your friends when they come over, and it also begs the question why Nintendo would not do this on their own as like a special edition to actually sell the Star Fox 2 cartridge alongside the release of the SNES Classic. Personally, I think that would have been the coolest thing in the world if they actually did that. And side note, Nintendo, you still have time to do that. My frustration with this whole situation is that people are profiting off of something that is not theirs. But that's exactly where the gray area comes in on this. If Nintendo's not going to make the cartridge themselves, and people want the cartridge, and the ability to make the cartridge exists, it's the perfect marriage between the person who's going to make the repro on the cartridge and the person who's interested in playing the cartridge on their Super Nintendo itself, without having any other means to do it, without going through the entire process of learning how to make a repro themselves. Actual repro carts of Star Fox 2 have been around for a very long time. The actual ROM leaked out onto the internet a long time ago, but it wasn't the actual completed finished version that Nintendo had in their archives. Now that the SNES Classic is available, the actual completed version with some minor tweaks to it is now finally available to the public. And by taking this ROM and putting it on this cartridge, it's actually putting the final Star Fox 2 in cartridge form available to consumers out there, not coming from Nintendo. And just to clear up any confusion that may be out there with selling these repros on eBay, it is illegal to do it. So what I'm focusing on in this video is it ethical? If it's not legal, that pretty much means it's not ethical either. But this is where the gray area comes in, because if Nintendo's not going to make the cart themselves, and somebody wants an actual cart of Star Fox 2, and the ability to make the cart exists, and someone's selling it to them, and they are willing to buy it from them, because it's a mutual understanding between the buyer and seller that says, you have something that I want, I would like to buy it, and from that perspective, I really don't have too much of an issue with it. The problem comes in with how much are they charging for these said repros. Star Fox 2 repros are being sold right now for upwards of $70 or more, quickly approaching the actual price of the SNES Classic itself, which to me is absolutely bonkers. I'm familiar enough with repros because I've seen enough of these in my life to know that it only costs between 10 and 20 bucks to actually make a repro cart. By selling these on eBay for $60 to $70, you're making like 50 bucks every time one of these sells. So the gray area that comes in with this is, what's a good price to sell something at where you're not taking advantage of the buyer with what you're selling? That's not even legal to be sold anyways. The blame is kind of shared 50-50 with Nintendo and the actual Repro cart makers, because Nintendo's not making this themselves and there's clearly a market for it there. But then you have these people that are making the Repro carts that are jacking the prices up to insane amounts because they know they can get it. For me, the people making these Repro carts are just as guilty as any scalper out there buying an SNES Classic and reselling it for a higher price. They're taking advantage of a buyer who wants something that can't get it by any other means, so they're jacking the price up. And while the situation is extremely convoluted and it's really confusing to figure out what side you want to fall on with all the information laid out in front of you, one thing's for sure, as much as this pisses me off, it doesn't even come close to how much counterfeit games piss me off. But that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys today, but I'd love to hear where you stand on this issue. Let me know in the comments below, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.
People dance, dance. You gon' lose your shit when you hear body, you gon' lose your shit when you